So,
Dag the Géal agus tar fáilte ró is mis an scéalaí beag. Hello, and you're very welcome to our sessions from Live at 5 here. Our captured recording today is going to be a question from the community, and Nicholas is going to share his query with us, and then Laura and I will do our best to assist with an answer. Nicholas?
Yes, I just recently started a garden and cultivated the land that I live upon, and I was just wondering if there was a basic guide to a good ritual or to honoring the spirits to bless my garden.
okay, so first thing I'd say is that, I'm gonna mute you there, okay? Yeah. Oh. The first thing I'd say is that it's really good to adapt. If you can get a basic structure, it's really good to adapt it to the space that you're in, and to allow, especially in a garden, right, to allow like organic growth for, and you know, creativity and intuitively for what's going to come through, okay? And I know you were saying earlier that this is a project that you're doing with your kids. So one of the other benefits of that is that, you know, you can kind of create space then for them to say something as well. You could do it with them as well, which would be, you know, again, you know, they're getting ownership of that, but they're also energetically involved with it as well. And the garden is energetically involved with them. So that's, you know, that's a nice kind of way to do it. So a basic prayer structure, and I've kind of laid this out in a lot more detail in my book, Practical Guide to Pagan Priesthood, if you want to go and look it up there, if you have a copy. But for a basic prayer structure, what you start with is just a greeting or a clear address. So it could be, you know, if you want to bring deities into it, this is, you know, this is where you're going to do that. Or you could just keep it general for like the spirits of this land, you know, or spirits of this garden even, you know. And you can, especially if you're bringing the kids in with it, you can have a chat with them about, you know, who or what they might be addressing. So it's a nice little opener for them as well, that it's not just, you know, it could be the land spirits, it could be the ancestors who walked the land before we did, it could be the actual spirits of the plants, as we discussed in the Live at 5 earlier. You know, like what's going to be growing here, like, and what might that look like. So it's a really nice kind of opening conversation to have with kids, to kind of get them involved and on the same page with it as well, you know. So but it's basically just the first part of it is just you're saying hi, right? And you're like, you can be a little bit formal and then let the kids have free rein, right? Or let them have free rein first and then you can rein it back in after, right? And then what you're doing is you're giving thanks. And with a prayer, I really like to give thanks as if it's already happened, right? So there's a little bit of affirmation in there as well. So, you know, again, beforehand, just think about what you want to achieve with this garden, and that's what you're giving thanks for. So, you know, it could be sustenance, it could be beauty, it could be pleasure, it could be connection, you know, whatever you actually want to bring that down to. That's what you're giving thanks for. And you can be a bit flowery there, you know, again, especially with a garden, it's nice. And, you know, and again, just leave a, a bit of space for the kids to say their thanks as well. And then this is where you, especially if you're dealing with deities, this is where you kind of, you start into the whole praise bit, right? And if you're working with a deity that, you know, has a kind of a focus on nature, or you know, has a proclivity towards what you're doing, you can definitely tie that in there. So it's a really nice place to bring in like a reference to their deeds, or you know, like that's how you kind of praise them, that it's like a story that you might be familiar. You could even tell a story, you know, or a version of a story, and again, like, let the kids get familiar with it there. You know, like a prayer doesn't have to be 5 lines and you're done. Like this, I say prayer as a very kind of general overarching term. Like this could take 5 minutes, or it could take, you know, an hour. Like it depends on whatever you want to do. So you can have a little story that you tell about the deeds of the deity that might fit in, or you can just, as I said, make reference to them, you know, anything that kind of ties in, or any particular aspects of that deity that you would like to look favorably on your project, or, you know, on your garden. And then you pretty much just finish with like whatever version of, like, you know, may it be so, or you know, Fás agus sláinte would be a nice one if you want to if you want to finish with Irish, because it means, you know, grow and good health, basically. So it's, I'll write that in the chat, or in the comments below if we post this anywhere else. Fós agus sláinte. So it's just, you know, it's very simple, but it's like, so again, something that the kids can then repeat as well, you know, and it's a little, now obviously you can do it in English, you can do it in whatever language you're comfortable with. Probably depends on what deities you're working with as well. If you're working with Irish deities, that would be appropriate, and if not, then, you know, don't be speaking Irish to them, right? If you had a word, I don't know whose land you're on, like who the natives were on the land that you're there. If you had a word, like a respectful word in their language that meant similar, or even just, you know, thank you or goodbye, you know, or something like that in their language. It's very open to interpretation, but basically you want to kind of round it out and finish it off with something that can be repeated by whoever's there, you know, and it just kind of goes around, and it's like an energetic clap almost. Okay. And then you're done.
Thank you very much, Laura. I really do appreciate it. There is a lot to be said for having a clear kind of structure within to work. And what I would always add is that for anyone coming to a spiritual practice or a spiritual moment or interactivity themselves, it's good to have words to go to, but the best words are your own words. You know, the ones that you have crafted, come to, invested the time, invested the energy, and become comfortable with your recitation, because it's your voice that's going to be putting within this moment. It's your voice and your energy that's going to be manifesting this change or this alteration, or setting the boundaries of this affirmation within your space. No one's words are better than anyone else's words, but being able to go back to a structure as Laura has provided, and then there's stories, the information, the lore that you're connecting to. Like with myself, like I'm a follower of the Dagda, who's known for land shaping, he's known for digging, he's known for changing the landscape of Ireland and setting out the very provinces. So when I do land work, I do call upon him, but it's, as Laura said, it's acknowledging that aspect of him. You know, not as the druid or as the sorcerer or as the king or as the chieftain, but as the person who works the land and changes the landscape as well. I think it's very, very important for all of us, wherever we are, wherever we put our feet, to be aware of what we're on, what we're standing on, where we're connecting. You know, I have the luxury and the privilege of being born and living in Ireland. And that's my native spirituality with these native deities. So many of us are, you know, descended from that, or like further away or further removed from that, and that can be a challenge with that connection. But if we're honorably and honestly making acknowledgements of where we stand on colonized land or on appropriated land, and, you know, making space for what exists in the very roots of the land before we kind of make space for ourselves to grow on top of that, it can be a much more healthier interaction. And it's one thing I would always recommend that people do. You know where you're coming from, know the roots of where you're growing, and then you can be very sure and very comfortable with the fruits of your labors as they come forward from that.
Yeah, and just to kind of finish up, I suppose in the chat there, Maria, sorry, mentioned offerings, which is something that I hadn't said. And I would kind of be coming from a place where the work that you're doing there is an offering. You know, you're taking care of the land, and you can definitely go into it with that frame of mind. But one of the suggestions here, something, offering something nutritious. Trini says offering something nutritious to the land. So like fertilizer or bird seed or something, you know, even specifically planting something that's going to milkweed was mentioned earlier for butterflies, I think, or something that's going to, you know, be a pollinator. Making space for that specifically as an offering would be a really good idea.
Yeah, sticking to, like, you know, what's native to the area as well, so that we're not altering the landscape of the ecosystem in which we exist. So we're honoring what is native and then working towards, you know, growing collectively and as a community. So I do hope that answers the question for yourself, Nicholas, and, you know, for anyone else who's kind of experiencing or kind of making a journey or making a challenge with their practice, their pagan practice, their beliefs, their earth-based spirituality, and how they connect with plants and the ecosystem in the world around them. I would say, Gurav Mahagas, thank you very, very much for joining us, and a fantastic question. We're really, really grateful to have such a wealth of experience and perspectives that we can share in together at these sessions live at 5. If you're available to join us, We do them on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and we'll be doing so for the rest of April. Gurv Mahagat, August Slán, thank you and goodbye.